Is there such a thing as a ghost with a passive personality? Like, what if a quiet, non-confrontational guy just so happens to die in a very tragic way, and now his soul is trapped in this world, but he doesn't want to be a bother about it, so you never really hear from him? What if right now he's trying to work up the confidence to knock over a vase? Maybe one time he tried to haunt you, but he didn't howl loud enough, and so you were like, what was that? And he didn't want to repeat himself, so he just floated back into his corner. Never mind. The reason I'm asking is because I recently met an old woman who convinced me that my apartment is haunted, despite the fact that I have not actually experienced any paranormal activity inside of my apartment. The other night, I was coming home from the grocery store, and as I pulled into my parking spot, I noticed an old woman standing behind me in my rear view mirror. And it seemed as though she had appeared out of nowhere, because I remember thinking, did I almost hit that lady with my car? It took a while to gather up all of my stuff, and as I went to climb out of the car, I noticed that she was still standing there. At which point I thought, I definitely almost hit this lady with my car, and she's gonna yell at me, because I am in a constant state of emotionally preparing myself for strangers being mad at me. So I got out of my car and I said hello, and she responded, oh, I'm just reminiscing. It turns out that she had once lived in these apartments, the very back unit in fact, which happens to be the one that I live in. What a crazy coincidence. I asked her how long ago she had lived here, and she said, oh, a long time ago. How very mysterious. And this whole conversation just kind of had a weird vibe going for it, which, let's be honest, is how most of my interactions with strangers go, when she revealed that a very tragic incident had once occurred here. Ray, the owner, lived upstairs, she said. One time the ceiling collapsed. Did you know that? No, I didn't know that. Yeah, they had to rebuild the whole thing. Ray died. Then she just casually changed the subject. Before we parted ways, she grabbed my hand and she told me that she had some of the best years of her life here, and just disappeared into the night. And then I drew my own conclusion that this apartment must be haunted. Again, despite the fact that I have experienced no paranormal activity, except that I sometimes have a recurring dream where I'm lying in my bed and I can't see anything, but it feels like my whole body is being crushed, which totally corresponds with the story. My house is haunted. But let's be real here. If my life were a movie, in the next scene I would go to the county building where they keep all the old records and periodicals, and there'd be a montage of me looking through big leather books filled with old newspaper clippings. Or I would just go on the internet. And after hours of research, I would finally find the article that confirmed the woman's story, that the ceiling had collapsed and that a man had died. But then I would also discover that that wasn't the only death that had occurred here, that another woman living in the apartment building had also died, and the woman who died was the woman I saw in the alley because the woman in the alley was a ghost. Goosebumps. Or I would happen to run into that woman in a separate incident. I would tell her the story about how I thought she was a ghost, and we would laugh about it and form an uncommon bond, and she'd teach me about life and friendship and imagining people complexly. I haven't really decided what genre my life is, so. 99% of me is joking about believing in ghosts, and 1% of me is worried that they all just heard me talking about them.